My daughter didn't want her disabled brother at her wedding because he would embarrass her. So I canceled the venue I was paying for, and now she's the one who's embarrassed when her entire wedding fell apart. The other day something very strange happened, and I need to share it with someone anonymously because it's easier this way. You see, my daughter is getting married to her fiancé, with whom she's been for more than 3 years. When I found out she was getting married, I was excited, as any good mother would be. It was very nice to know my daughter would be walking down the aisle. I received an invitation in the mail the other day, but the invitation was addressed only to me. There wasn't one for my son, with whom I live. He has a disability, and I care for him full-time. Eventually, I'll take him to a specialized center, but while I can, I'll care for him myself. There should have been an invitation for him in the mail along with mine. Sure, I guess he could have been my plus one, but my daughter is inviting a lot of people to the wedding, and the invitation doesn't say a plus one is allowed. So there should have been an invitation for my son. I wish I could talk to my daughter about this. She's been busy planning the wedding, so I haven't had many opportunities to talk with her. Part of me believes it could have been a mail error, that it got lost because it was sent separately, but another part suspects that she really didn't want to invite her brother. The more I think about this second option, the less sense it makes. You see, I raised my children as a single mother. It wasn't what I expected for my life, but life sometimes presents you with these things, and you have no choice but to accept it. I married my husband when I was in my 20s, after dating him for a while. We wanted to finish college and establish our careers before getting married. That's what we did, and everything was heading toward us sharing the rest of our lives. Then I got pregnant with our daughter. It happened pretty quickly, especially since we weren't planning it, though we weren't being careful either. So we received this with open arms because we already had jobs, a place to live, and we were married. My husband also wanted to be a father, so I didn't have to convince him of anything. Quite the opposite, he was more excited than I was. I remember it with some sadness because we were very happy at that moment and we didn't know it. One appreciates things with time, and it's a real shame. A few years after our daughter was born, my son was born, and we were also very happy. But there were complications at his birth. When he grew up enough, we realized he had an intellectual disability. It was just one of those things that happen, but I was never ashamed of him, and neither was my husband. These are things that simply happen. What was important was that he was with us, and that was all that mattered to me. He would just need a little more love and care because of his disability, and there was nothing wrong with that. A few years after my son was born, I lost my husband. It scared me to think that I would have to take care of my children alone, without him, but I knew I had to do it because they needed me. My husband had life insurance, so we didn't lack anything. The only thing I could do was stay strong and try to be present for my children. Raising 2 children alone is difficult, and when one has a disability, it becomes even more complicated. But what I never did was make my daughter feel like she had to take care of her brother. That was my responsibility, not hers. My daughter and my son were always very close. They used to spend a lot of time together whenever they could. But when my daughter entered adolescence, she began to distance herself from her brother. It was normal for her to do that at that age, but my son didn't understand it. He couldn't comprehend it no matter how much I tried to explain it to him. This led her to say hurtful things to her brother sometimes. She would call him insulting names or make fun of his intelligence. It disturbed me to see this happening because she had never been so cruel to him before. It happened several times, to the point where I had to yell at her about it. When we first met her future in-laws, something similar happened. We were having a good time, and my son said something that made her future mother-in-law roll her eyes. She made a sarcastic comment, and everyone laughed. I spoke with my daughter privately after the event, and she just said it wasn't a big deal. This wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was very concerning. I tried to limit interactions after that time, but the in-laws didn't seem interested in getting to know my son better or seeing him again. My daughter seemed to be okay with this, and my son felt hurt. Their relationship never seemed to recover, but I never thought she wouldn't invite her brother to her wedding. It was simply something I never imagined would happen. As you can see, I always tried to raise my daughter in the best way and never put too much burden on her. It's not like she's now resentful because I made her take care of her brother or something like that. What do you think? Could I be letting my mind play tricks on me and jumping to conclusions? Maybe my daughter just forgot to send her brother's invitation or assumed I would bring him. Or could it be something worse? I don't want to think that she could have done this on purpose. After all, she is my daughter. But with some of the things I've told you, could this be the case? It honestly hurts me for my son because the two of them have been close. I have so many pictures of them together, happy and enjoying their time as siblings, and yet here I am doubting my own daughter, something I don't want to do. I think I'll leave this post here. I'll let you know in an update if I find out anything more. I just wanted to tell my story and see what other people say. Update 1, I think the big question from my original post has been resolved. It turns out that my daughter doesn't want to invite my son to the wedding, and that's why he didn't receive an invitation. The worst of the two options. Last week, I talked about how my daughter had been very distant from me, and it got to the point of sending me an invitation but not to my son. When it happened, I felt torn between thinking it was suspicious and trying to understand why there wasn't an invitation for my son too. But then I read some comments here. Some people accused me of not being a good mother for blaming my daughter for something that, according to them, didn't mean anything. Well, yes, I suppose it could be that my daughter only sent me an invitation because she issued it as a family invitation instead of a personal one. I wanted to think that too, but that's not the case. All of you insisted that I talk to her, but I didn't want to think about that possibility because I felt the truth would be harsher than I imagined. And now I know I wasn't wrong because I talked to my daughter once and for all to find out what was going on. At first, she just said the party wasn't for children, even though my son is no longer a child, as if trying to downplay the issue. But then she told me directly the reason why she didn't want her brother at the wedding. Apparently, it's okay for me to go because I'm not an embarrassment, but if her brother shows up, then she'll be completely embarrassed. According to my daughter, it's best if he simply doesn't go because it will be difficult for him and for everyone else involved. She wanted to make it seem like a favor for her brother, although any way you read it, it sounds pretty bad. I tried to reason with her and tell her that he's her brother, not a pet or an object that you don't want at your wedding. People would also wonder why her brother wouldn't be there since it's not a secret that she has a disabled brother. But my daughter said something I never thought I'd hear come out of her mouth: I don't want someone like him at my wedding. She also used an insult that I won't repeat here because it's quite horrible for people who suffer from the same condition as my son. At that moment, rage invaded me. It was so tempting to slap her, but I restrained myself. I told her that if there were any other reason for not inviting him, I would understand. But because he embarrasses her? That's not right. My daughter got angry, insulted me, and stormed out saying she didn't want to talk to me. Fortunately, my son was upstairs playing with his things and didn't hear anything. I would understand if he had heard it, at least a part of it, and it would hurt him to know that his own sister is ashamed of him. I understand that it's her wedding and that she can invite and not invite whoever she wants. However, we're talking about her own brother, so it doesn't seem fair to me at all. I would understand if her brother had done something wrong or caused some problem. Also, if she were upset with him because I forced her to take care of him when she lived here, but I've never asked her to do something like that. What concerns me most is that all of this started after my daughter met her fiancé. Probably her in-laws have played an important role in all of this, and I don't know if her fiancé has too. Can someone change so much by trying to fit into another family? That's not the daughter my husband and I raised, and it's not how we educated her. Update 2, well, I'm trembling and speechless. I'm updating just 2 days after my last post, so I apologize for posting so much in this sub. But I had to write this and get it off my chest. The last time I talked to you, I mentioned that I was going to ask my daughter the real reason why she didn't want her brother at the wedding. Although I knew I shouldn't do it, I directly asked her if her in-laws had anything to do with this. I was convinced they were behind it all. My daughter answered me straightforwardly that yes, they suggested it, but it wasn't just them. She too has felt ashamed of her brother for a long time. She told me that when she got to high school, having him around seemed uncomfortable. But in all of this, although it's still pretty bad, at least the in-laws are a bit better than her. Her in-laws, or rather, her future in-laws, mentioned to her that perhaps it would be best if he sat in the back. I told her that would have been better than simply not inviting him, but my daughter is convinced she's doing the right thing. We can say that my in-laws have influenced her, but she is still the main responsible for this matter, and I mentioned it to her. I didn't just write it here because that's how I feel. I think her in-laws are horrible, but she is much worse. She got angry, insulted me, and told me that if I have such a problem with her brother not going, then I don't have to go either. I wasn't planning to attend without my son anyway. I was going to leave him at home with someone to take care of him and go to the wedding. No, that wasn't going to happen. When I found out my daughter was getting married, I never imagined everything would turn into this. I guess it's my fault for not raising her with better values, but I don't know how I ruined this. She was never spoiled because we never had too much to do so. Despite how complicated it has been to raise them, I always tried to be there for her. I helped her with homework at night and even with choosing the best dress for the prom. I'm even paying for the wedding venue, and speaking of that, when I talked to some of my friends, they told me I shouldn't pay for the wedding venue. I've left the deposit to reserve it, but I think it's better to cut my losses. My daughter asked me to do it, and at the time, I gladly did because I thought I was giving a wedding gift to her and her fiancé. But now I wonder if I should go ahead with the gift. It was also a gift from her brother, but neither of us is invited, so I see it as a waste of money. It doesn't feel right to do it if my daughter can't treat me with respect, nor her brother. Why should I pay? And I've thought about it a lot, and my answer is that I decided I'm not going to pay for my daughter's wedding venue. I was willing to give it to her without any problem, but everything has a limit, and this has been mine. I know my daughter won't be happy when she finds out I canceled the venue, but I also decided that I'm not going to tell her. I don't think she deserves even that. After all, she didn't bother to tell me that my son wasn't invited. I don't understand why I should tell her now. And it's not out of revenge. It's simply because she has made her decision, and I made mine. That's how simple things are now. My friends think I'm doing the right thing, and I hope to see all of your opinions too. She can find another venue, only she'll have to do it in a hurry. At no point did my daughter come to talk to me calmly about this. She didn't try to discuss it with maturity or look for a middle ground. She just yelled at me, insulted me, and made excuses. My son is confused because we're no longer going to the wedding. I did my best to explain the situation to him. He seems to be okay with the change. Of course, I haven't told him the complete truth. Why would I? It would only break his heart. The best I can do is simply tell him there were changes and that we won't be attending. Update 3, my daughter has discovered that I wasn't going to pay for the wedding venue, which made her call me and beg me to change my mind, but I refused. My daughter found out a few days ago that she wasn't going to have her wedding venue. It's been more than a week since my last post. She had been waiting to do a tour of the venue and start planning how her big day would be. Well, the venue owner must have informed her that the wedding wouldn't be held there because she called me demanding to know what was going on. I had to explain to her that I had canceled the payment and that I wasn't going to cover the costs of the venue. Now, if she wants to get married there, she'll have to make her in-laws pay for it. I wouldn't be surprised if they refuse to help her because they seem to be the type of people who aren't willing to give anything to others. But I didn't tell this to my daughter because I didn't want to make her angrier. Not that she wasn't already furious. My daughter started yelling at me, and when she realized that wasn't working, she started begging me to change my mind. She told me that if I really loved her, I would pay for the venue, that it was the least I could do since she's my only daughter. And then she said something that completely devastated me. She told me that my son was never going to get married, so it made sense to give her everything she needed for her wedding. That was the cruelest comment I've heard her say. At that moment, I felt like I was talking to a stranger. I didn't recognize her. This version of her, I insist, is very different from the one I knew. It seems like she's been swapped for the most psychopathic and soulless version you can get. After listening to her complain and cry that this couldn't be happening and that she had to find a way to fix it, I hung up. But she kept calling me, sending me messages non-stop. Don't think I didn't give her a chance. I told her many times that the only thing she could do to fix things was to apologize, but she wouldn't. She kept insisting she was right, as if she were proud of what she was saying. Some of you have asked how my son is doing. And again, he's fine. He misses his sister, but she had already started to distance herself from him for a while, so it's not like this is new to him. I had to explain to him that this is just part of life, that she's growing up and following her path. But to help distract him, I decided to have his birthday party at the same venue my daughter had chosen for her wedding. Now, I know this might seem a bit spiteful, but I want to make use of the venue. It's already reserved, and I want to use the money on something that can do some good for someone who deserves it. I thought my daughter deserved it, but I was wrong. She doesn't know yet. She just thinks the reservation has fallen through and that it won't be available for her wedding. If some of you could leave a happy birthday for my son, please do. I'll probably read them to him when it's his birthday. It's not exactly the same day as the wedding. It's a few weeks before, but we'll use the venue to celebrate it big. My daughter has also involved her in-laws, who haven't stopped contacting me to try to reach a solution. But I've just told them that I can't do anything because I decided to cancel the reservation. They say I've been very unfair with what I did. Why should I take seriously anything they say? I don't even know them. What I want to know is if I'm handling this correctly. Some of you commented on my last post telling me that I'm a horrible person and that I don't deserve to be a mother. Others told me that I did the right thing, that this was the only way to make my daughter react. But now I think she's never going to change. I think I've accepted the fact that this is how she is now. It's unlikely that my daughter and I will ever talk again. It would be possible if she ever changes and becomes the sweet person she used to be, but with her in-laws whispering in her ear, I don't see that happening. Update 4. Hello everyone, I'm sorry for taking so long to update, but don't worry, I'm back to some things up. My daughter was so angry that she tried to steal a check from my checkbook and tried to cash it at the bank. Now she's no longer getting married. But for those who want to read everything that happened, keep reading. It's been more than 3 weeks since my last post. I know, 3 whole weeks. For me, that's a long time when I got you used to making faster posts. I've been focusing on myself, determined to stay disconnected and simply concentrate on my life. However, I finally decided to go online and see what was going on. I saw that you left many comments, and at first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to respond to any of them. I read them as promised and then logged off, thinking I wouldn't need to come back with more updates. But then my daughter tried to do something to sink even lower and surprised even me. I knew she was desperate, but I never thought she would go that far. At first, I thought she would ask her in-laws for help so they would cover the wedding expenses. I was convinced they would, but apparently, that wasn't the case. Her in-laws refused to pay for the venue for some reason, despite the fact that I know they're not short on money. They simply didn't want to help. Maybe they thought that, as the mother of the bride, I was the one who should cover the costs, a somewhat outdated thought, but well, who am I to argue? Now, let me tell you what my daughter ended up doing. She came to the house to see my son when I wasn't there because I was at work. And well, my son, being who he is, let her in without hesitation. He was with his babysitter, whom I didn't think I should warn about anything. I know, it's been my mistake. She just heard my son say he wanted to see his sister, and she let her in. He really believed his sister just wanted to see him. But what she really did was go into my office, take a check from my checkbook to pay for another wedding venue. It's hard to believe that my own daughter would go to the point of committing fraud, but when I discovered it, I realized that she can do that and more. And based on the fact that I'm telling you this now, you can guess that she didn't manage to cash the check. I was horrified when I received a call from the bank the other day telling me that someone claiming to be me had tried to cash a check. My daughter thought she could get away with it, but I guess she was so determined to get the money that she tried to impersonate me. Well, before I could even decide if I was going to press charges or not, I found out that my daughter is no longer getting married. Her fiancé left her. He said he couldn't marry a thief, someone who embarrassed her family. It's not that I'm happy my daughter is no longer getting married, but well, things are as they are. And you know what? I'll probably press charges. If she hasn't learned before, maybe it's time to learn that actions have consequences. Update 5, it's time to tell you how these months have been for me. I owe you a lot of information, and I hope this satisfies your curiosity. As I like to start with a summary for the impatient, I'll tell you that I have pressed charges, and we've celebrated my son's birthday party. The birthday party was magnificent. My son had a great time. There was music, games, some friends, and family. The only person who missed the big event was my daughter, but that's because she didn't receive an invitation. I don't think she would have wanted one either. My son asked if she would come, but I told him no because she was very busy. I couldn't think of anything better to tell him. I can't tell him that his sister doesn't want him. I know my daughter found out about the party and the venue where we had it since we uploaded photos to Instagram because my son wanted to. However, she hasn't said anything to me. She hasn't tried anything and hasn't complained to anyone. It's progress because at least we don't have her drama around us. I pressed charges against her, but if you're one of those who think I've been a bad mother through all of this, you shouldn't worry too much because she's only been fined $1,000 and given some community service. It's a misdemeanor, so I didn't expect too much from this. I didn't want to ruin her life either, just show her that you don't play with these things. If she doesn't want my son or me in her life, that's fine. We can go our separate ways. At least my son has gotten used to the idea that she isn't part of our lives. He asks about her less and less, and that makes everything easier. I'm going to miss reading your comments because it was the best part of all this, but at least I'll enjoy the last ones on this post. Goodbye to all.